be a scallywag of the First Order and is wanted by the police. And the police offer Holly a sum of money. Well, actually, Holly asks for a bribe, just like Judas. And they give it to him to betray the whereabouts of Harry. And he takes that bribe. But Harry's only source in appearance. I mean, Holly's only source, having an experience of limitation in this dualistic world, which is an illusion. So everything is exactly the way it should be. He moves across. Actually, he's got a double part in this triangular type scenario. He's also the intruder on poor Harry's relationship with Anna, because while Harry's not around, he starts flirting with Harry's girlfriend. She remains decided that she's in love with Harry, so she's up there at the comfortable top part of the intruder triangle. As I keep saying, as source or spirit is the only doer. They're all puppets of source. We're all playing our different roles, which rotate day by day. First we're here, then we're there. It's all interchangeable at different points of the triangles. And we're all puppets having great fun aren't we? In the unfolding of the divine leader. Going on to something very much more passionate in the movies. One of my favourite films, Casablanca, shows us that this isn't just about head stuff. It's not just a head trip, all this choosing and being caught in the middle. There are deep passions involved in love, obviously, and this film beautifully conveys that, how easy it is to get carried away by a situation and to find yourself the split person. And in fact, there's a double betrayal going on here. These two characters are interchangeable in this film. You've got Ilsa, who is desired by both her husband and by Rick, who is the owner of Rick's Cafe in Casablanca. And Rick is also a split person. Not only Ilsa, because Rick has to choose whether to give away letters of transit that enable the married couple to escape Casablanca and the Nazis. So he's also split. So this can happen, and there's innumerable complexities can happen with love triangles, which is great food for the writers of soap operas and romantic movies and novels. But it's life, isn't it? You know, that's what we're faced with in this material life. Either choice is actually made by source. Really, this is something worth remembering. And whatever turns out to be the choice, to be the result chosen, is actually the same. It's all the same because of the freedom-limitation equation, which has it that there's always an equal amount of freedom or limitation to anybody's situation in life. No matter whether you're the poorest of the poor or the richest of the rich, your life is still going to be balanced with the same amount of freedom and limitation. Have you ever been to India and seen how happy those shoeless street kids are with their grins from ear to ear? Totally, poor and emaciated, but wonderfully happy on the inside. That's the freedom-limitation equation, and how much desperation and misery there is amongst the wealthy elite around the world, in the West, in America, and so on. Again, that's limitation that must balance freedom, which is the same in all of our lives. So it's no better or worse, whatever we choose. The outcome may be different, but it's all the same at the innermost level. And who is it who chooses anyway? Perhaps our passion carries us away and makes us choose. And again, that's source. Here we've got an example of somebody who can't help but be carried away. Two people who cannot help. And I'll show you because I'm sure you'll feel it too. It's very well conveyed. This is a meeting between. It's a meeting between Rick and Ilsa, and it is the love, the full passionate, ungovernable drive that we feel when in love, which takes away all freedom of choice.
I showed you this morning you'd come around, but this is a little ahead of schedule. Well, won't you sit down?
Richard, I had to see.
Well, there's Richard again. We're back in Paris.
Please.
Your unexpected visit isn't connected by any chance with the letters of transit. Seems as long as I have those letters, I'll never be lonely.
You can ask any price you want, but you must give me those letters.
I went all through that with your husband. It's no deal.
I know how you feel about me, but I might need you to put your feelings aside for something more important.
Do I have to hear again what a great man your husband is, what an important cause he's fighting for?
It was your cause, too. In your own way, you were fighting for the same thing.
I'm not fighting for anything anymore except myself. I'm the only cause I'm interested in.
Richard, we're not each other well. It's so safe I didn't get talk to you.
I wouldn't bring up Paris if I were you. It's poor salesmanship.
Please listen to me. If you knew what really happened, you only knew the truth.
I wouldn't believe you no matter what you told me. You'd say anything now to get what you want.
You want to be sorry for yourself, don't you? There's so much at stake, all you can think is your own feelings. One will has got you to take your revenge on the rest of the world. You're a coward and weak. No. Richard, I'm sorry, but you are our last hope. If you don't have the victory, I will die in Casablanca.
One of them. I'm going to die in Casablanca. It's a good spot for it. Now, you.
All right. I tried to reason with you. I tried everything. Now I'm almost there. Get them for me.
I don't have to. I got them right here.
Put them on the table.
Now,
The last time, put them on the table.
if life alone and cause means so much to you, you won't stop at anything. All right, I'll make it easier for you. Go ahead and shoot. You'll be doing me a favor.
Richard, I tried to stay away. I thought I would never see you again. Then you were out of my life. The day you left Paris, if you knew what I went through, if you knew how much I loved you, how much I still love you.
Irresistible, isn't it? Oh dear. Excuse me while I wipe away the tears. Okay. So, what is the way of truth when we're faced with a choice like that? Okay. There's the crossroads. Do we go down the left path? Do we go down the right path? Who do we choose? And more to the point, who is doing the choosing? And how? We can go by our body symptoms, our feelings, our recurrent thoughts, or other people. If it's a message of truth coming from the inside, it's usually consistent and it's usually repetitive. If you keep getting the same thought flashing into your mind, maybe at several minutes notice, several minutes repetition, it usually is something that you can trust. You go along with it. That doesn't mean to say it's coming from source, but it's coming from an inner part of you that knows what it wants to do, possibly what is best for you. But it's still all the same to our innermost centre, to source, whatever we decide. So, whether it's truth or it's source, it's still the doer, it's not us. And if no indicators pop up, we can go with the heart. Just go and follow your heart, as they say. Toss a coin. Or do what some of us here would gladly do for you, consult the tarot cards, and they'll give you a good answer what to do. It's all the same to your inner life, so it doesn't really matter how you decide. So what we're going to do to finish this talk is carry out a little experiment. I've got these cards here that we've been looking at, which is the Tarot de Marseille. I've got the full range of 22. I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to ask for a volunteer to come up and pick a couple of cards, or a couple of volunteers, pick a couple of cards for an answer to a passionate love scenario, and see how the tarot can provide another perspective on love and romance and duality and choice. The perspective of divination, of divining through the symbolic messages contained in it. So I thought of another romantic weepy film that we could look at, and we could make a choice, help the heroine out of her desperate plight. And I thought we go with Brief Encounter, which was recently voted by The Guardian as the #1 greatest love movie. And I pretty much agree with that. Does anyone know the story? Yeah, okay. So some people do. We've got the person who's caught in the middle at the base of the triangle, the lower triangle, is Laura, who is caught between her husband, who's a rather dull but okay, well-meaning gentleman, and her new acquaintance, a doctor, who has swept her off her feet. Now, how is she going to choose? She's mortified at the thought of wrecking her marriage to Fred. This is in the old days where you had to stay true to your husband, and you didn't even think of sleeping with anyone else, certainly not until you were married with them. And on the other side, her heart is set alight inside by flames of passion, which is actually the title of a film that occurs in the cinema when you walk into the cinema. The irony here actually is that Alec, the doctor, is really no more romantic than her husband, because when he's chatting them up, he's talking about different kinds of metal particle that can obstruct the functioning of the lungs. And that's supposed to be a good chat-up, chat-up tactic. But she's kind of like Love is Blind, she's totally besotted with him. But she doesn't want to leave her husband, because remember, this is 1940s in England. People just didn't do that sort of thing. So, there she is, the split person between Fred and Alec. She's a divided soul, and she's source. She's spirit. She's the absolute, like we all are, like all there is, experiencing limitation through us, through this human vehicle. The limitation, which is, a good value, right? Because we get so much out of love and romance and all the other experiences, but it's all by Source's design. So, what would Source through the tarot say? Can I have a volunteer to pick a couple of cards to help Laura out of her misery? But before I do, we better choose a moment, okay? When Laura comes to the consultation. So we'll choose this moment, which is kind of at the end of the film.
What's the music? Play you all first try?
No, I can.
Dear Fred, there's so much that I want to say to you. You're the only one in the world with enough wisdom and gentleness to understand. confirm it was somebody else's story and not mine. As it is, you're the only one in the world that I can never tell. Never, never. Because even if I waited until we were old people and told you then, you'd be bound to look back over the years and be hurt. And then, my dear, I don't want you to be hurt. You see, we're a happily married couple, and must never forget that. This is my home. You're my husband, and my children are upstairs in bed. I'm a happily married woman. Or rather, I was until a few weeks ago. This is my whole world, and it's enough. Or rather, it was until a few weeks ago. But I'm afraid I've been so foolish. I've fallen in love. I'm an ordinary woman. I didn't think such violent things could happen to ordinary people. It all started on an ordinary day, in the most ordinary place in the world.
So, what's her best response to her husband? What's her best response to loving Alec? Let's see if we can make a choice for her using the tarot, which is the basis for tonight's talk. Anybody feel brave enough to take a couple of cards? Justin?
Okay.
Yeah?
I'll put a volunteer over there.
Okay. And yes, okay. The other one can be mine. Yeah.
What you looking for?
Justin, can you choose first of all what's her best response to her husband, Fred? Okay. So just choose two cards. I'm going to interpret these two cards as a pair, as a unity. So place them side by side, vertical side by side.
Side by side.
That's right. Put
Turn
them down.
around.
You turn them over. That's right. Okay. If you move out of the way. Okay. So the best response, says the tarot, of Laura to her husband, how she should deal with the matter with her husband. We've got there's a star card next to the Temperance reversed, which is saying, well, just a minute, let me just go into tarot interpretation mode. The star, purity, staying at home, simplicity. Just Temperance reversed, which is all about balance and those opposite poles, but it's saying it's not really a question of either or, of trying to find a balance. It's saying that in this particular case, there is no necessary solution of pleasing both parties. What you can certainly do is to be hopeful and optimistic and centered in your positive expectations, but knowing that whatever happens, you can't please both parties. You can't please Fred, or if, at the same time as you're pleasing Alec, or vice versa. To me, I mean, we have other tarot readers. What would you say, Mike? Would you say that's a fair assessment of those two cards?
Yeah, it's a good assessment. Humble devotion and no solution to chaos.
Right. Thank you. Would you like to come and choose?
I just think it's Temperance turned on its head, so it's her, my interpretation is more subjective and personal, but it's her, I can't really take it beyond that, but I just think there's no moral purchase on the situation. She has been turned on its head.
What's been turned on its
The
head?
morality of temperance, possibly, if it is a morality. It's a state of being, it's not morality.
I would go with that as well. To me, it's the question: should be her response to her husband, best response, and maybe he's very ordered and kind of dull, as you said. So the best is actually to loosen him up a bit, slightly out of balance, out of his habit, and maybe say, "Oh, let's go to the cinema, or let's do something different." You know, that's could be a possible thing, rather than being against her husband, she could change the relationship slightly to make him have a bit more fun, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Get him a bit out of his comfort zone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
He's very much as part of what's taken place
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
He's instrumental to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So now the other side of the opposite side of the triangle. What's Laura's best response regarding Alec, who is the suitor?
Wow.
Ooh.
Intense.
Ooh. Very, very intense. We've got the reverse devil next to the wheel of fortune. Okay? Now, reverse devil, whoa, this tells us all kinds of possibly unpleasant and uncomfortable desires and fears and passions are lurking underneath the surface, which haven't yet been brought out into the full light of reality, because it's reversed. Yeah? The devil is about the unconscious, it's about compulsion, and it's about things inside us which we know can get terribly out of control, and which kind of we're afraid of looking at. But it's reversal. It could possibly be even more suppressed, or it could be coming out and clearing. It could go either way, actually, and both ways are opposite. Next to the wheel of fortune, that is saying events are going to turn full circle, and you're going to come to the end of the cycle here, and things are going to change. Now, we know that Alec in the film at this stage has just taken leave of the UK. He's gone to Africa to start a new life. So does it mean that? Or does the wheel of fortune in this case mean a positive turn for the better? A positive phase in her life regarding her unconscious desires, which she's been suppressing for so long. It's difficult for me to put a pragmatic, to give a pragmatic answer regarding Alec, because this seems to be saying one or both of them are being turned around, almost like there's a hand on that handle. There's an invisible hand, it's just out of shot, and it's turning the handle. It's maybe source consciousness, turning their lives. And that is going to bring out that depth of passion, which until now she has been so frightened of. Or it's going to bring out the passion in Alec, but as it's her response, I think it's her passion, it's her fear of looking at herself and her own deep-seated desires. And the changing situation has brought that to the surface. Mike, you want to say something?
I think there's a warning there of being totally consumed by lust and passion. There's a warning in there.
Right. Yeah. Any other comments on that? Well, thank you. That's a very crisp assessment. Summing up. Thank you, Mike. Yeah. I'd like to conclude with really a first-hand account of what we're talking about. What I could do is be very dry and ask, well, who is the doer anyway? Who am I? The Theosophical Society, Alice Bailey. Well, I am a being that exists on 7 different levels, from the physical right up to the ultimate Godhead at level number 1. Or I think I'd much rather kind of give the brain a rest and put you over to a teacher of enlightenment called Tony Parsons, who's been around the block spiritually and is totally unpretentious in pointing the way out of this whole dilemma of choice and duality. So without further ado, I'll finish now. Thank you very much with this brief clip of an interview with Tony Parsons.
So, Tony, would you
and probably a personal experience that you had, and that some people don't like to talk about these mystical, call it that, experiences or whatever. Could you tell us about, would you mind telling us about the experience?
Yes, except that I didn't have it. It wasn't telepathy to have had an experience. It was suddenly that the whole construct, artificial, inconstant construct of telepathy suddenly was no more. Nobody did anything about it, there was nobody doing that. It was that suddenly that whole idea, sense of self-consciousness simply evaporated.
Do you mind talking about it?
It was instant. There wasn't anything that knew that was happening. It was just that suddenly there wasn't anyone there anymore. There wasn't any sense of a centre or an identity.
Right. Could you call it, for want of a better word, cosmic consciousness or light?
I don't like the word consciousness. I don't even know what it means. I think that consciousness is a very unfortunate word. Like being. All that was left was being. All that was left was life. There was only life, and there was nobody having that life anymore. Life wasn't happening to Tony Parsons. Life was happening. That's what's here right now.
Absolutely, yeah.
This is life happening.
Absolutely.
And the experience, not that there's anyone having this experience, but presumably living in like that is very different from living.
It's not, in a sense it's not. Everything is the same as you see it in a sense, except that what the individual seeker sees is always separate from him. So that's why seeking is so unsatisfactory, because the person is always apart from what's happening. But the walls and the books and your face are just the same as you would see them, except that there's no one here seeing them, and there's nothing here that feels separate from them. So this is togetherness.
Would you say that you experienced then being everything? Not that you...
No, not being everything in the sense I am the sea and the sky and the walls, because there is no I to be am. There just is sitting on a seat talking.
So you could say that maybe you use the word consciousness, which you don't want to, but it's not self-consciousness.
No.
It's not even a cosmic self.
It's not, and it's not an awareness of this thing sitting here talking. It's just this thing sitting here talking. It's the natural reality.
Yeah. What is?
It's actually the natural reality. And this thing can function. This thing will go out and have dinner in a minute, or lunch or something, and get up from here and walk downstairs. But nobody will do it. It's just what won't be happening.
There's an absence of anxiety.
Oh yeah. Well, who's going to be anxious?
So if you had a message for anybody out there looking at this now, Tony, if you did, what would you say to them?
There is no advice that can be given to the individual thinker, because the individual thinker will get hold of it and turn it into a formula.
Yeah.
The nearest I can get to it is come to see that all of it is what's happening. All of it is what's happening. And I've also said come to see. There isn't anything you can
Come to see.
All I can say is all of it is life.
How many...
Thank you. If you've got any questions, you can ask, but I'm not guaranteeing I can answer anything.
Well, shall I marry? I'm joking. As the question at the beginning, as people ask, who shall I marry? Who's good for me?
Yeah.
I haven't got this question, but I'm just saying. I'll go for it. Sorry.
Is that a personal question?
No, I haven't got a question. No. It's supposed to be a joke.
How do you explain why certain cards are chosen at certain times? I mean, is it just complete? You don't think about it; they're just there. Or how is it that?
That's a question you can't ask a tarot reader, because we don't know ourselves.
Do you rely on certain synchronicity then when you're doing it?
I think there's a synchronicity happening. Yes, it's uncanny, but it almost always gives an answer that clarifies the situation. It may not always tell you exactly what's going to happen in the future. In fact, I don't think the tarot is very good for future divination, but it's certainly very good at bringing you an altered and more enlightened awareness of what's going on.
I'm still confused with this choice and no choice. At the end of the day, are you saying we do have choice? Like these people who you're saying they've got a choice.
Yeah.
What should they do? And at the same time you're saying, well, they haven't really, because it's all in the stars and they've got to do it because that's the way it is.
Yeah.
So have we got a choice or haven't we, in your view?
There's levels of being. And at the end of the day can mean a more inner level. And at the more inner level, we may have a choice, we may not. But at the ultimate level, which Tony Parsons is talking about, there is no chooser. There's nobody to make a choice.
Yeah, but there's always someone to make a choice, isn't there?
Well, that's the whole point. He's saying there isn't.
He's wrong.
That's what he's talking about.
He's wrong.
Why do you say he's wrong?
Well, if you take him as he is there, he's the perfect puppet, if you like. He's just sort of doing his thing. He doesn't know what it is. He's just saying, this is where I am. I just do this. That's a perfect puppet, isn't it? I mean, someone who can sit back and say, well, I don't have to do this and go for a walk in a minute. I can ask you to leave. I'm fed up with you. And whether he does it or not, it's a choice he can make. He seems to be saying, I'm a puppet. I just
yeah, that's right. That's what
but I'm saying is we aren't just puppets.
Right. Okay. I understand.
Given that we're not just puppets, we make our own choices, in my view.
We think we make our own choices, but who are we to make the choice?
Well,
people, individual beings who have freedom to make choices. That's what a human being is, isn't it?
But that places us squarely on the chessboard of duality.
Yes.
Individual beings. Me separate to you.
Well, obviously we are, aren't we?
But isn't that a Western belief? Because the belief in the individual is a Western belief. In the East, there's much less of a concept of individual beings.
You can have both. You can have both.
Yeah. Yeah. But what I'm saying is this is a Western argument of free will versus destiny. Every client will ask you that question. No one's got a really good answer.
When I'm looking at Clemens, am I looking at thank you. When I'm looking at Clemens, am I looking at 100 billion cells, or am I looking at one person with Clemens? Both are true. If you zoom in, it's 100 billion cells. If you zoom out, it's one person. It's the same with people. People can be part of each other. If you look at the big picture, they're all one. If you zoom in, they're individuals. There's no conflict. It's like looking at two sides of a coin. It doesn't have to be either or. It depends whether you zoom in or you zoom out.
But in this society, we're ending up with less and less choices. I mean, in America, 90% of the crops are now GM. So you find you can get to a stage where you've got no choice at times but to eat GM food, which is bad for your health.
You've been eating it for the last few decades. Already. I just wondered, do you think that as a whole, humanity maybe we're moving from a dualistic point of view into a different kind of attitude? Like some people reckon, the difference, going from Pisces to Aquarius.
Yeah.
Things like that. I don't know. Do you think that will tie us together?
The author of this book maintains that there is a shift happening, and more people are awakening in the same way that Tony Parsons is awakening.
Right. And this book?
This book is called From Onions to Pearls by Satya Nadine. He also became so-called enlightened in an American jail, and it was a sudden major shift in his entire awareness, just as happened with Tony Parsons. And I attended satsang with Satya Nadine many years ago, and he told us this is all probably going to happen to the people in this room because it's accelerating. More and more people are waking up to the reality that source is all there is, and we are not the doer. Consciousness is the doer. And yes, we are puppets. I don't think he used the word puppets, but he said it's all a cosmic joke. What we take to be we and you, the identity of the separate doer. It's all a joke. It's source is just having an experience of imitation through us.
It's a bit dangerous calling it a joke.
Serious joke. It's a serious joke.
You know, you mentioned, you gave the example of Judas, being destined to do what he had to do. Well, Jesus says he was destined, that's why he handpicked him, because he knew what the game was from the beginning. But he also said that evil must come, because it has a purpose to play, but woe to the person through whom it comes. I mean, Judas wasn't very happy when he hanged himself. So it wasn't a joke to him, but he had to do it.
On the inside, what we can ask what was going on. All of us have to make difficult decisions, but to source it's the same. On the deepest level of the inner, there is no attachment one way or the other. And that is possibly the most challenging lesson that there is to learn between birth and between the cradle and the grave. Non-attachment to the outcome. Even in scenarios like that.
Yeah, but is it not non-attachment to the outcome? I know what you're saying in that sense, because I believe that. But I would make a step further, but backwards, and say you don't worry about the outcome, providing you're doing the right thing. And you would say, well, what's the right thing?
Who can?
Sorry?
Who can?
And the right thing is what God wants you to do.
Source.
Yeah, but the source being God.
But he can call it source if he wants.
Who's God out there or inside you?
Well, as long as it's God and not the devil. There's a lovely Bob Dylan song. I don't know if he's a Bob Dylan fan, but I'm a great Bob Dylan fan.
Cool.
And in one of these songs, he says, basically, you're either we're all slaves, and you've got to either do what God wants you to do, or do what the devil wants you to do. Does it great though with the old music, it sounds fabulous. And there is always that. We are in a sense puppets, but you can be a puppet for the devil and think you've got complete freedom, but you're still a puppet, and you're going to end up in hell. I know it's a bit serious and not quite the tarot. Or you can do what God wants you to do. This aspect of duality. I mean, the duality I believe in is there is a good and there is an evil.
And also, if you decide to marry someone, it's a decision. You said this is my lot for this life. And you can stick with it, because there's always the latest model going to turn up. So you can't just desire forever. You could say, if you believe in reincarnation, you hang up till your next life.
Yeah. Well, we can joyfully be the puppet that chooses to marry, knowing that we haven't made the wrong choice, because that choice was made by the ultimate all along. Which can make us even more joyful, because it lets us off the hook of taking responsibility for that choice.
It is true. They say the best marriages are made in heaven.
Things we're talking about the devil and the lovers and tarot. I wonder what you thought about something. Tarot's got 78 cards, and 7 plus 8 is 15, which is the devil card, and 1 plus 5 is 6, which is the lover's card.
Yeah.
So I wonder what you might have to say about that.
I'm using a system where the counterpart is the same digit, yeah, and not the addition.
I know, I understood your system.
So 16 would be the counterpart of 6, not 15. So 15 is a devil card. Yes, 15 adds up to 6, but that's a different system of numerology.
Because in the, at least in the rider deck, which I don't use, there's a lot of the devil card and the lover's card are quite similar in many ways. I mean, I know it's not the system you use, but there is something in there.
Yeah, the tarot can be interpreted in multitudinous ways, particularly when you look at the entire deck. Not just 2 cards, there's enough argument possible there, but with all 22 cards. Yeah, the devil can be seen as the shadow of the lovers.
I think it's in a way the opposite. Like the shadow, because the devil, the people have chains, but they're really loosely around their arms or legs, so they can be taken off in the Rider-Waite deck. People just think they're bound by chains, they're stuck in a situation, but actually they just can't take them off. And the lovers is about choice. The lover says, okay, you can choose, and the devil thinks you cannot, but actually yes, you can too, in a way. That's how I see it.
I think the choice is always within you, and that's the way I see it. That it's all these outside things, it actually comes always to you, and there is choice, but it's an illusion of choice. At the end of the day, there is no choice, but there is some kind of choice that you have to make. It's nothing wrong if you make it or if you don't make it, but you have to make it.
Yeah, and you do have a choice in making it. Sorry.
Yeah, I know it's like, I don't know how to explain it.
But I just think everybody knows what the right thing to do is.
Yeah, to follow the right thing to do.
That's
for
I think
yourself.
kind of where I'd agree with you on good and evil and right and wrong. Is that, you know, if you ask yourself truly about anything, you know what the right answer is. You know, most things are not hard to figure out. It's just we catch ourselves up with all the other shit that goes on in our head and our life. But ultimately, the usual answer is very simple for anything, really, isn't it?
Once you made a choice, that's it. It's done. It was a right choice.
Even if it's wrong.
That's a good point. Speaking as a professional tarot reader, would you guide your clients to make what might appear to be evil choices if it serves their needs? How far do you go to collude with your client, or do you not care what they do? Because you're like doing it as a professional person. How do you deal with people who are very caught up in this?
Yeah, I had this question yesterday. A client told me yesterday I decided to leave my boyfriend, and I told him that I'd had enough of him, and I feel so bad about having said that to him. And did I do the right thing? So she asked me yesterday in Ealing Town Hall, and I said to her, it's not about what you told her to do, what you told him you wanted. It's not about you saying you wanted to leave him. It's about you criticising yourself now and doubting yourself for having said that. Because you're always going to go through life doubting yourself with every major decision you take. And surely that's more important to you than whether or not you continue with that particular person.
You could say there's no, I don't know, I get the image of a guy plummeting down a cliff saying, oh, I've made the choice now of jumping, it must be the right choice. But I don't really buy this argument that there's no choice. I think you've got a choice, you've got perfect, complete free will to make errors. And if you're in tune, then there is no choice.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Mm-hmm. If you're in tune,
but also, you can if you know something about, you know, if you map everything out perfectly, forces act to come on anyone, make them make a certain decision anyway. If they're given that sort of type of person in that particular situation, they're probably going to make that decision. So whether they think they made that choice, did they, or was that just inevitable?
Paracelsus said that man is the only creature that can rise above his stars. You know, rise above his influences. So I think you do have choice. You know, and if you make the wrong choice, you then have the choice to learn from your lesson and not do it again. But then, you know, you could say, oh, every choice is a great choice because there's always a lesson to learn, but wouldn't it be nice to stop painfully learning lessons and start making the right choices?
It helps. Do you grow?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, but there comes a limit. There comes a point when you suffered enough, I think.
I don't know.
I think that's when you.
I think there's a point where you stop suffering. Yeah, exactly. I think that's where you let go of the choice thing.
Yeah.
Really, yeah. I don't know.
What about if people make really bad choices? Like, do you think Hitler had a choice?
Hitler was a puppet in more ways than one, I believe. He was being used by the elite. Both sides were being financed in that war, both the Allies and the Nazis, by the major bankers, the Western bankers.
May I just make another point? You know, on the making choices, and perhaps making a wrong choice or the right choice. But I think, you know, all our lives has a purpose, I believe, and we all make mistakes. I've certainly made loads of them. But at the end of the day, I believe we will be, which you touched on here, that whether it's a cycle spiral going higher or higher, and this renewal, there's a judgment that has to be made on the life that we just led, before this rebirth takes place. And I think we are actually judged. It's not ourselves, except ourselves in a very deepest sense that we are the Creator created us, God, and there's a divine spark in all of us. But if we've gone totally wrong, we're judged on that, and God says, "Oh, sorry, you're so far away, you've gone so wrong that you've got to live a long way away from me, so much so that you're ready to go on there almost." But we're given this ability, say in Christianity, with John the Baptist came from the desert, saying, "Repent because the end is nigh," basically. And that was Jesus' first message afterwards, when John the Baptist had his head cut off. Jesus started saying, "Repent because the end is nigh." And what I'm trying to say is this, if we've made a terrible mistake, before we face this ultimate judgment, which I believe we all will face, if we realise it and say, "Well, I'm sorry," before, "I'm sorry, that was a terrible mistake, I realise it now, please forgive me. And if I can make amends, I'll try my best." That's a better way of living than sort of, well, we do keep coming back. There is reincarnation, but it doesn't mean anything. Just keep going around and around and around. Because, you can either go around and around that way, or you go around and around that way. So, the way it's getting back to those triangles, let's sort of be going in the right direction. If we made a right hailing...
If we only made right...
Say sorry.
How would we know the difference between the right choice and the wrong choice? And we're here to make mistakes.
We're not here to make
and we're not here
mistakes.
to beat ourselves up.
The mistake we've made is to be here.
It's a tough number, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That is a mistake. I mean, we're here in a sense by mistake.
How do you know? Maybe being your right choice.
Excuse me, most people don't want to know this stuff. They want to know, is he the right bloke, or how come I've got the wrong one? That's the only question most people have. Not interested in free will, destiny, God. They just want to get the right bloke. So where most people are is where you have to be, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because if you tell people it's all one, they'll start hitting you.
Yeah, they will.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be appropriate in the tarot meeting. I have to give them some answer that will satisfy them.
I disagree completely. Often as a tarot reader, you get clients which say pretty mundane things like what you've just come up with, but I don't think at all you have to approach it from that level. You can, with your reading, you can bring it up to a completely different level and offer a new perspective, which is cosmic, regardless of how mundane the question is.
I agree. I think if you word it in a way that they understand, I think you can bring it up and agree with them.
Do you, from the sense of the tarot, do you have any moral criteria yourself?
As in the Hierophant, the religious teacher, preacher, educator. Morals are very dangerous things. When you were talking to people about their lives, their personal lives and their crises, if you start bringing morality into it, it becomes like that kind of attitude towards that.
What about ethics?
The same.
No, but I'm saying, do you yourself have things that you sort of... I mean, if I put myself up as somebody who could advise people, I'd like to think I know where I was coming from, rather than I want to earn a living.
We don't advise, do we, Mike or Richard? We don't advise people. It's channeled. It's coming from sources. It's coming from spirit. I'm not there when I'm talking to my clients, or I shouldn't be. It's not coming from. I'm in no better position to guide them in their life than I am to guide my own life, and I'm not the best guide in my own life. So it just comes through. It's a kind of channeling. So I don't know what I'm going to say. It's not me. Who should be saying it? carry on with this conversation when we adjourn to. Are we going to the cafe bar? I think it's the opposite side of the square.
People can meet each other here first.
Yeah.
You know, there's no rush to get out of the street.
Okay.
And then later.
No, there is a rush. I want to drink.
Well, we can have networking here and then over there.
Great.
Okay. Thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.